Nope. Oh, now we are.
North Node really live. North Node really live. North Node Facebook really live. And today's date is January 16th. And oh my God, you guys, there's count them, 6 planets in Capricorn. I just looked at the sky, was like, or looked at the chart and was like, do you know what a perfect day this is to talk about your shadow? So what is the North Node? The North Node is an indicator that lives in direct relationship to the moon. It's called the moon's node. It's not a planet. And therefore, we do not use this indicator to predict anything. We don't use this indicator for timing. We just use this indicator for the psychological patterns that live inside of your psyche. So it's a fascinating conversation for people who are beginner astrologers and just want to learn a very shortcut to what are my patterns, what are my issues that I need to be aware of. And specifically, ready for this? It's specifically to deal with the unconscious and the conscious mind, or the past and the future. So let's start here. The North Node. Let's just get it really simple for all you beginners and whoever wants to play astrology with me. The North Node has to deal with the going forward. If you think about the Northern Star, and that the way that people navigate is they know that's the constant, and that's the star that's visible, that would be your North Node. It's the visible indicator that you orient to drive your ship. The South Node is where you've come from. It's behind you. And that has to deal with the past life memory, the unfinished business, the place that you go to when you're just semi-lost and you can't find the Northern Star. You just go on automatic. Your South Node is when you go on automatic. It's where you go for comfort, to the default, to your unconscious mind that is like your old pair of slippers. So like if you just want to stay home and you don't really want to go out and look for the Northern Star and go seeking, you just put on your favorite slippers and you slump in your chair, and that becomes your South Node, which is the indicator of past lives familiarity. Where have you been before that you rest in, as compared to where are you aiming at and where are you seeking and where are you moving toward to get to some evolution. So they're always in opposite signs. That's the curious part about the North and South Node. They always come in exact 180 degrees opposite. So in one lifetime, and we're going to go through all of them, if in one lifetime you were a warrior and you were a feisty character and you had to come into a lifetime and really learn about independence, and everything in that life required you to be self-sufficient and to push people away and to really learn about who you are, guess what I'm describing? That would be a North Node in Aries, where in this lifetime you promised, or sorry, that would be a South Node in Aries. The past life is that you were super independent. You fought for your own well-being. You were a warrior-esque man or woman who pushed in order to get. In this lifetime, you come in with a North Node in Libra, because that's your South Node. That's the past. Just think South is behind you and North is in front of you. So that would say that in this life, quite the opposite. Your North Node said, you know what you're going to learn this lifetime? You're going to learn about partnership and how to do that lifetime with another. So it's the example of dancing with the partner, getting married and staying married, being able to collaborate with others. With a North Node in Libra, you made a promise that you were going to do partnership as your primary resource to get your shadow to go away, because your past life was you were so independent and you didn't want a partner and you didn't want anybody telling you what to do. In this lifetime, you were like, okay, what do you guys want to do? Let's see if we can't, find a mediator or find a middle land or compromise. So if you came in with a North Node in Aries this life, let's flip it over. So that was South Node in Aries, North Node in Libra. If your North Node is in Libra or is in Aries, this life you said, you know what, watch this, you guys. I just did a session this morning right now for someone who had Saturn and North Node in Libra. It happened in 1969 that both of them were there. So her whole dilemma was in the session that she's caught between two men. One man is super grounded, one man super sexy, and this happens to her all through her life. Because why? Because her default, because her North Node is in Aries, she promised that she'd do independence, but her default is to always want to do relationship. Okay, what was this comment? Yes, today is not an easy day. Ding, 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 pause, commercial break, 6 planets in Capricorn. You guys, slow down. And if you're learning about astrology from me, 6 planets in Capricorn, put your personal stuff aside for a minute to collect the information I'm going to give you about the North Node, and then we'll pick it back up. But what a perfect excuse. Why do we study astrology? To get into the observer and get rid of our day as far as our personal, recalibrate by coming out of, and this is a one time to come into your head and out of your body is when you're studying. So if your North Node is in Libra, this lifetime you promised to do relationship because in your last life you were a warrior and you were super independent. If your North Node's in Aries, you promised this lifetime to really stand up for yourself and do it by yourself. And that's not an easy path to have North Node in Aries, but it's the promise that you would fight for what's right, you won't compromise, and you'll really pick up your game. Does that make sense? North Node in Aries, you're aiming at independence. North Node in Libra, you're aiming at relationship. North Node in Libra means that in some past life, you were a warrior. North Node in Aries, in some past life, you probably compromised and got stuck in a marriage that was, basically all marriage up to this time in history. Her story was arranged marriages where we got stuck in them. So if you had South Node in Libra and this life you came with North Node in Aries, you were like, I don't want to be married. And that's a really important distinction. And that's what just happened in my last session. If your North Node is in Taurus, if this lifetime your true North is Taurus, you promised that you would go really slow and make this life simple and make your value system as simple as enjoying being in a body, the pleasures of Taurus, of slowing down, of food, of a glass of wine, of chocolate. Because in your last life, you were a power monger and you were dealing with hardship because a North Node or South Node in Scorpio suggests that some past life you were either bound by money or sexuality or power, or you were burdened by it, or you were carrying it. But in the North Node in Taurus, you're like, this life, whew, I'm going for the simple version. I'm not carrying power. I just want to be happy. Can you see the difference? But if your North Node is in Taurus, or if your South Node's in Taurus and your North Node's in Scorpio, that means that in some past life, you were so grounded, you were a peasant, you were so comfortable with simplicity. And this life, you've promised to do power and stand in your power, whether that's sexual, whether that's emotional, but you decided, you promised that you would be very assertive around standing up for what you cared about, as compared to Taurus saying, you know what, don't make a lot of noise, just go do what you need to do. So, is that clear? Darlene wants to know how to find your North Node. That's a very good reason to stop. With 6 planets in Capricorn in the heavens, we're going to show you how. Because all you beginners who have never met me before, you're like, what is she talking about? And just so you know, in our school, we make astrology super simple because this is very, very complicated. We're isolating, think of a puzzle. And I just picked out one piece of the puzzle, which was the North Node, which, by the way, came in a yin yang. It was one puzzle piece and it had 2 pieces to it. That's only one piece of the puzzle. And this is just the indicator of your karma from past and future lives, from how to clear your evolution from your shadow. Your South Node is your shadow of a past life, and your North Node is your director in this present time life to get you out of the shadows. So you want to aim for your North Node. And here, Darlene, how do you find it? You go on astro.com, ASTRO. You click in the upper left-hand corner where it's going to say free horoscope. The next page on the left-hand corner, it'll say chart drawing or ascendant. You click on that and up will come information sheet, your birth date, time and place, the city, the country. You put all that in, you click on continue, up comes your chart. You double click on it and then you just see your chart by itself. And on that left-hand corner, there'll be an English blue box with all the words, and you'll look for either true node, that's another way to say North Node, and they'll only write the nature of your North Node. They'll assume that you understand that it's always in the opposite sign. So you have to know astrology to know if your North Node's in Aries, your South Node's in Libra. So they're only going to tell you the North Node, and you'll have to imply the South Node. But this is all just the reason why we're doing this is to tickle your interest and say, listen, you guys, if you want to learn about your karma, you have to go learn how to do a chart. you come to our school, which the cart's opening in 10 days, or no, 8 days, 8 days a week. Da, 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 da. The cart's opening soon. So if you're interested in learning astrology, you're going to have to take our school, in which case, how do they do that, Carrie? How do they get information about the school?
I put a link in the comments for the wait list. So if they put in their information there, we will email them as soon as the course opens again.
So that's how you'll go into deeper understanding of what are the two signs that are opposite. And in astrology, it's such an airtight system, because let's just back up. Aries was independence, Libra was codependence. Aries is warrior, Libra's peacemaker. Let's do Taurus. Taurus is simple pleasures, grounded, calm, quiet, slippers. Scorpio's power, sexuality, and intensity. They couldn't be more opposite. And they're always like that in astrology. Let's do the third one. If your North Node is in Gemini, this lifetime you came in with true North being, I want to go study and do really detailed understanding of something, because Geminis love to go very deep, as far as, not deep, but Geminis want to get the details right. They want their pencils sharpened. They want their colored pens. They want their files. They want everything in a very strict order to create some semblance of order, because they're a little bit crazy, Gemini. And that means in their past life, they had their South Node will be in Sag. If the North is in Gemini, the South is in Sag. That means in their past life, they were wanderers and they were travelers and they had a multitude of different interests, and they were probably mavericks, and they left the community and they were studying with other people, or they jumped over cliffs. You can go see my montage on Sag and learn about it. But this life, they promise with True North and Gemini to be very detailed and to become the student. In that last life as Sag, they were the teachers and they were sharing information, and Sagittarius is loud and it's frivolous and playful. They couldn't be more opposite. Geminis are like, wait a minute, what'd you say? I want to write it down. Sag is like, don't write it down, just make it up, embellish it, celebrate it. So there's two different styles. So if you have your North Node in Gemini, you came in this life to be a student of this life and to collect information and to really do it with detail and to be a communicator about what you study. And some past life, you've already been a teacher or a shaman or a high level spiritual being, and you came back in to go back to school. If your North Node's in Gemini, you came back to go to school. If your North Node's in Sag, you came in to share the goods, give people information. That's like the funnest placement. You promised this life that you would do this metaphysical thing in spades, like you were going to be a metaphysical giant, and that you've studied from some past life with your North Node in Sag. South Node was in Gemini. You did some practices and you collected some information, and you, so the opposition of Gemini and Sag is small as Gemini and Sag is big. Details is Gemini, Sag hate details. They just embellish and make up stuff. Okay, the next opposition is if your North Node's in your North Node's in Cancer. In this life, you promised you'd come in and do mom, not necessarily with children, but that you really wanted to be a nurturer and you wanted to give people the gift of playing family. But if your South Node is in Capricorn, somewhere in your past lives, you were so business oriented and you were so responsible, probably playing out a male energy. But this lifetime, you promised to do the female. Yeah, I know somebody really well that has this. And so you're trying to learn how to stay in your emotions and be really responsible to your family and play house. Because in some past life, you were all about being the business person, and you're done with that. You're done with work. You want to come home now. If your North Node's in Capricorn, quite the opposite. In that last life, you were so family oriented and you probably had lots of kids, or you were one of many and you played house and bound by your family. And this time you were like, I'm going to do the corporate version. I'm going to do my own version. I'm not going to be stuck in some family structure, said the Capricorn. Don't limit me. So can you feel the opposition? Cancer is the homebody. Capricorn's the business person. They couldn't be more opposite. So if your true North is heading towards Capricorn, you're all about work and not about business. That's your shadow. You know, your home life. Sorry, you're all about business, and you've left your home life behind. You were supposed to. But if your North Node's in Cancer, you made a promise this life that you would value your family over your work. And we all have that split, but this is the nodes that give us the clue about your soul's journey. If your North Node's in Leo, that's a really fun one. Then you promise this life to make it all about you. And that in some past life, maybe you were living in a commune, maybe you were part of a community, maybe you were living in a very free lifestyle as Aquarius South Node, where you were unstructured. But this life, you were like, I want to be in mainstream. Leos want to play mainstream. They want to be normal. So a Leo North Node is like, I really matter and I'm going to show up and I'm going to be part of my community where they all notice me. In the South Node in Aquarius, that was your shadow. You didn't care. So it's always a stretch, you guys. When you go to your North Node, it's not a natural placement. So let's just speak about that while we're halfway here. It's like you don't really want to do your North Node until it comes into your awareness. It's not a planet. It's not an easy access. It comes into your awareness when you study astrology. It's a real reason to study astrology is to understand your North Node and go towards it consciously. And furthermore, to avoid your North Node as an excessiveness. You've got to do your South Node. Sorry, to avoid your South Node. You have to do your South Node. It's like, it's old home week. It's like when you go back for your reunion. Your South Node is where you're most comfortable. You've got to do that to create comfort. But if you're interested in growing, which is why you're watching these videos and why you're studying astrology, is you're going to aim towards the stretchy place that's not so familiar. So if it's Aquarius is your North Node, you promised to do astrology. You promised you would be woo-woo. You promised you would be alternative. You wouldn't get stuck in normal. And your South Node was, you did maybe it was royalty in the last life where you know, South Node in Leo. Maybe that indicates, excuse me, that you were very powerful and recognized in this life in Aquarius. You're not so concerned what others think about you. And they don't care if they applaud you, whereas Leo really cares. And then if your South Node is in, let's go North Node in Virgo. If this lifetime you came in with a North Node in Virgo, you are here to do details. It's because in some last lifetime when Pisces was ruling you, you were in the magical, mystical world and maybe got distracted or maybe got addicted or maybe so this life you were like, give me the details and I'll follow through. If your North Node's in Pisces, you gave an agreement that, you know what, I want to learn how to integrate the woo-woo stuff into my daily life. So you are going to learn about meditation and you're going to learn about guides and invisible worlds and dead people, because in your last life you were so grounded. And by the way, you bring the inheritance of your South Node. All of you, go find out where your inheritance is. Like, what do you do so easily, so naturally? You had a whole lifetime to cultivate that. But then you want to stretch into your North Node. So if your North Node is Pisces, you are allowed to go do woo-woo. If your North Node was Virgo, you're supposed to keep yourself grounded. It just goes in the opposite flavor, as you can see. So that takes care of those first 6. Oh, we did the other ones. That's so funny. We did them all. If your North Node's in Libra, it means in a past life you were a warrior. We did them both. That's so fun. So the point of this conversation this morning is, let's get it into the philosophy, and then you, Carrie, can ask me some questions. On a challenging day like today, when there's 6 planets in Capricorn, and we're all being asked, I mean, I woke up this morning, it was such a funny entrance to the day with like, someone had a bad dream and someone was talking about the earthquake that just happened today. And someone was talking about, I had a dream in my own dream. There was a double Scorpio in my dream. It's so funny. It was kind of like you wake up, 6 months in Capricorn. What do we got to do today? How are we going to fix the problem? What's the dilemma? And if you're a proactive personality type, 6 planets in Capricorn, I am all in. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's get work done today. This is a great day to get work done. And it's a great day to pray for some seeds about what you want, because Capricorns respond to intention. They will not deal with vague. And I love when people call me, they go, I don't really know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm kind of confused and I'm just waiting for it to show up. Really? No, Capricorns don't wait for things to show up. They make things happen and they learn by mistakes. And then Carla asked a great question. Is the North Node always in your sun sign? No, very rarely is it in your sun sign. The North Node travels independently of all the other planets. They do not travel together with the moon or anything. So don't get confused. You have to ask yourself in a day like today, where's my discipline? What do I need to exercise discipline? It'd be a great day to do like a fast. Now, we should have done a full moon fast today. A new moon, sorry. I'm slipping around. It's funny, my brain's slipping. A new moon cleanse would be with 6 planets in Capricorn. Where can I exercise discipline? What's the nature of my relationship with that word, discipline? People hate that word. How do I commit? Capricorns have no problem committing. Yes. always your North Node is a very powerful wisdom source, because it's like you're kind of looking in your Akashic records back drawer. That's what they are. They're giving you the clues of your past life, which is what the Akashic records are. Akashic records is a big, giant book. People have literally seen it. And it's a symbolic representation for all the past lives that we've had and the karma that we've accrued. And the North Node talks about karma. So if your South Node, for example, is conjunct Mercury and your past life, it would say that you were very mercurial. It gives you a clue if the North Node's on a planet. But it's a standalone indicator, doesn't require a planet, doesn't require aspects. And in the Indian system, in the Eastern Vedic system, they call it Rahu. And it is so significant when they talk about the node, that it's really an indicator of karma. Any other questions, Carrie?
Yes, we have a question about, Hinny mentioned this, but I think it's kind of an overlying question. Her, sorry, I just lost it. Her North Node is in Capricorn and her rising is in Sagittarius. So how do these hook up? And are we aiming for both of these, North Node and rising? And can you talk a little bit about the difference between North Node, rising, Saturn, and how those all fit together? Which one do you focus on?
Okay. So as a beginner, you guys that are going to come take the school, you're going to start with the rising sign as the indicator what to rise into. That's a primary loud messenger brought to you by your birth time. Whatever time you were born, we knew what your rising sign is. And that in esoteric law, the rising sign or the ascendant is what you're rising towards. And that's the goal of this game, is to ascend into a more heightened state of pleasure, of joy, of delight, of acceptance, of wisdom, of health, of vibration. Everything wants to rise up to create a happier, more joyful experience. That's why angels can fly, because they take themselves so lightly. They're ascending. They're not getting caught in the seriousness. That's the ascendant. How do you access your wisdom source? You go to your ascendant. Saturn is a timekeeper. Saturn is specific, first things first, to tell us the cycles that we're in. So 7 years old, 14, 21, 28, every single 7-year cycle, you're going to go through a change. And it's worthy to pay attention to where your Saturn is time-wise, but more important, equally important, is what sign is it in? Now, that's not what you're rising toward. That's the nitty-gritty day-to-day. What do you struggle with? What's the thing that's pushing you around and telling you to go to work or not, giving you discipline or not? That would be Saturn. And it's very important to face your Saturn, become friends with your Saturn, and become endeared to your Saturn, which means making friends with the high school principal and being able to say, okay, don't get mad at me. And wherever your Saturn is, you can answer to that question. And that's another whole class, which is the last class of level 1, because it's the most important to me. It's kind of the crescendo of what's the cycle you're in. It's very simple, you guys. It's very, very simple. So for you beginners that know nothing, you've just learned that your rising sign, or the ascendant, it's the same word, is what you're rising into. It's your higher self going towards your soul's evolution. Saturn's the timekeeper. He's going, excuse me, I've got a message for you, and I'm going to show up every 7 years to scream your name. The North Node is like a secret messenger that you only learn through astrology. The other two, once you learn your ascendant, you're like, oh God, that's so me. Or not, if you're not in your soul. If you're not ascending, you're not going to relate to it. But the Saturn one is, no matter who you are, Saturn's coming to get you. The ascendant is a little less accessible depending on if you're operating out of your soul. The ascendant is your soul. Are you interested in ascending? You know, if somebody's driven by security and their health issues and they watch television, they're not interested in their soul. That's not even a word. They're ascendant. They don't even use the word ascending. So the soul's less available to them. Their sun sign, their ego, is very prevalent. That's based on their birth date. But the rising sign can be very thin. And as you get older, you want to drive straight into your rising sign, and unapologetic, straight in. So we've got the rising sign as the soul. We've got your life lesson as the timekeeper, and it shows up in those windows. And then the North Node is a very subtle messenger that you only find out when you study astrology. It's not like you'll know your sun sign, or any astrologer will tell you about your North Node. There's a really good book by Jan Spiller called Spiritual Astrology, and her whole book's based on the North Node. It's so fascinating. So, but this is a very unique, and the name of the book is Spiritual Astrology. Why? Because the North Node's the spiritual doorway. It's not available. If the rising sign's your soul, everybody has a soul. Are they working with it consciously? My mom wasn't. I mean, my grandma didn't care. The rising sign was prevalent with my father for sure, and he was a soulful being, which means you give away things, you're very kind, you don't really care about materialistic things, but not everybody has the soulful drive. The North Node is a secret agent that sits behind as a shadow, the marker of your shadow, which is the South Node. Your past life is your shadow. Somewhere you'll default. You'll lean into your shadow and just go, you know what? I don't want to do my North Node. I don't want to do my rising sign. I just want comfort. And wherever your South Node is, you just drop into that old pair of slippers and just take a day off. When you're having a hard day, go straight to your South Node for comfort. And if it's intercepted, it's not significant angel. It's still use it as the marker. And does it matter what house it's in? Yes, it does. But we're not doing the houses today. We're doing a beginner, simple, go on astro.com, look where your ace, look where your North Node or true node is, and then grab it, and then know that's your true north. And then go Google what's the opposite sign of, if it's Aries, and then you'll know Libra, and then you'll go read South Node in Libra. It's a beginner conversation. It's only half an hour. I'm here to whet your appetite and tease you. Did it work? Interceptions don't matter. What house it's in does matter. If the North Node or the South Node are conjunct the ascendant, yes, your soul and your node are working together, but don't get complicated on me. Just work with the flavor of your North and South Node, and that's going to give you some big clues. Okay, we just did half an hour and 15 minutes.
That was awesome. Everybody is saying thank you. Dana said, OMG, you explain things like I've never heard before. Everybody is loving it. So thank you.
I talk like a 6th grade teacher because that's as far as I got.
And if anybody's interested in learning more about the North Node, Debra does an entire week on it in Applied Astrology.
Yes, we do, in depth, and really seek out your shadow.
So make sure you, go ahead.
Because here's the deal. Write this down. The purpose of psychology is to make your unconscious conscious. The North Node is your conscious mind. The South Node is your unconscious mind. When you become aware of your unconscious mind, you become awake to your impulses, to your undoings, to your sabotager, and you get to call it out from the observer. And any of you that know my book, The Missing Element, that's another access to what is your shadow. It's the missing element. So go get my book, go look up North and South Node, and make your unconscious mind conscious, and you'll wake up. Go ahead, Carrie, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say that I put the link in the comments for the Applied Astrology waitlist. So if you're interested, make sure that you go and put your information in there, and we'll tell you when it opens first.
Dun, 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 dun. Brought to you by Debra Silverman in the Moment in 2018, when there's 6 planets in Capricorn and you want to learn about your shadow. It makes my heart sing because nothing matters more. All right, kids.